All right, welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Today we got Kevin and Alex in the room. Just a quick refresher. Last podcast, we went into the creative side of digital marketing. We talked a lot about Canva and Descript and some of the AI tools we're using for social media. Today's topic is going to be a slightly part two deviation from part one, but since Alex is the digital marketing media director and he runs all the ads here, I thought it'd be good to ask him about the creative side of advertising. What are we doing with text ads? What are we doing with banners? What are we doing with videos, landing pages? All of the buyer journey UX that goes into media buying. We're not always just talking about impressions and clicks here. We're talking about actual, what does it feel like to go through those ads? What does it feel like to have that buyer journey convert or not convert? You know, we want people to land in our CRM. We want people to add to cart and check out. We want to do all the things we can do to have a good conversion rate. And the ad creative part is very important.
Absolutely.
So I thought maybe the flow today would be anything new in the ad creative world that you want to talk about, anything recently on the radar pop up, and then kind of go through text ads. I think text ads are the easy way to start because text is text. We don't get too creative with text, but there are some things we can talk about. Then go banners, then go video, and then go talk about landing pages.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing that immediately jumps out to my mind when talking about using AI in the creative space, and this certainly applies with text ads, is scaling. I think it's the simplest way to start off doing the search ads. You know, you look at your landing page, you look at the type of service that you want to advertise, what kind of keywords are you looking at, and then that informs your ad copy. Same thing with the landing page. I think what AI can really help out with is scaling that process, doing it maybe a little bit faster so you can move in. Something that we do a lot is incorporating AI and get it to really get like kind of a rough draft or a first draft of what we're looking at, and then go in there and make those minute adjustments that AI might not know about, because you've been talking with the client, you've been going over the landing page, you know, you're talking with the SEO team on what they're building landing page wise, and then you're able to really get kind of a template to work off of, make those small adjustments that really kind of take it over the hump and just really help out. And the same can be said about image ads as well. I know we'll talk about product ads somewhat extensively. AI is super helpful at scaling that in ways that a lot of advertisers might not have had the capability to do so beforehand.
Let's open up the text ad template you just mentioned. What do you use? What's kind of the new tool set? I think back in my day, it was Excel. You know, you have your headlines and your descriptions, and it was all very human. Kind of before AI even was AI, like didn't even exist back then. You know, you had your character limits. You know, you have 30 characters, including spaces, and you got to fit your headline in there, right?
Yep.
Your description text, those variables have changed over time. Google's changing over time. But just recently, like, I don't know, has it been a year or has it been 6 months where you have Google Sheets, where you have equals AI?
Yeah. And then
How
just
long has
start
that been?
plugging in Gemini. I feel like that's been maybe a little over 6 months, maybe a year, around that timeline. Yeah.
So if you can talk to people about like how are you using AI to do what we used to do human-ish, this is all manual. What is AI able to pull into an Excel file or a Google Sheet that helps you scale that template better?
Yeah, so you can definitely do it the way that you just talked about. I know we've played around with, you know, doing that equals AI or whatever that formula is, and then giving it your prompt, and then that'll start it off, and then you can, you know, drag that down and build out some different ad groups if you'd like. Honestly, what I've been doing here someone recently that I think is really, really kind of worked out is just build a brand identity in Claude or ChatGPT, Gemini. You know, we've tried all three. Give it an idea, you know, give it the website, give it a basic synopsis or a synthesis of what the brand guide is, you know, colors, all of those things. If you're talking about outside of text ads, I'm getting a little outside of our boundaries, but especially with text ads, give it an idea of what the business is, what kind of services they're looking to advertise. Give it that kind of template to work off of versus just saying, here's my landing page, build me 10 different headlines, 4 different descriptions, because then you're really kind of letting it maybe get outside of the box there and putting in those guidelines there, I think has been helpful. And like I said, I think AI in a lot of cases is a great way to start, And then you need to apply that kind of manual touch. There's a human element of that AI just can't really maybe get to because it doesn't know the conversations that you have with the client or or internally with your team. But that's the way we've been using it.
Yeah. There's a strategy component that AI doesn't know, right? They're like, here's your ad copy based off your landing page. And sometimes the landing page isn't the best. And so we're having those conversations with our client in real time going, hey, you need to go in and change your call to action. It's your CTA is not good. We'll change our AI won't know that. They're going to build off the wrong strategy.
Yep.
So I don't think you can prompt engineer strategy into AI or just off of like a URL or a landing page.
Can't be done.
So giving it, what are the advantages of AI at the ad group level or at the keyword level? We've seen studies, and I think AI even knows this, that the more you can match your keyword to the prompt, or I'm sorry, the more your headline matches the keyword, the better the CTR. If you're one of those account builders who just throws 100 keywords in one ad group, A, you're doing it wrong, don't do it that way. But B, if you want to be able to scale your ad copy and write well, or at least give yourself something besides a blank canvas, because I think you should always go in and just kind of judge, right? You should always like kind of put the human on top of it, of the AI. But you can go in and be like, instead of doing like old school, like Control H, find replace.
Yeah.
We did a lot of that back in the day with like ads editor, right? Like, I don't know, I mean, you still probably do, but up front building, AI can do a little bit of that heavy lifting for you. So you're not spending hours and hours in a spreadsheet.
Yeah, no, definitely. And again, that kind of goes into, not only do we usually provide it with like a brand guide, but I still like to keyword plan very manually. You have AI incorporate, in that process if you need to move a little quicker in some areas, but it's the same thing when you're talking about building the ad copy. A lot of times I'll say, okay, here's, just download the sheet, give it to Claude or what have you, and say, okay, this is the structure that I'm looking for. These are the keywords that I'm trying to match up with the ad copy and with the landing page. You've already usually given the landing pages or it's included in that column with the final URL, and really just say, okay, this is your starting off point. These are the guardrails that I'm looking to implement. On a side note, something that I've really noticed is that if you say stay within the character counts, you often have to remind Claude or ChatGPT that the punctuation counts. I find that quite a bit where it'll go over the character limit because it does not count period, spaces, all the, you have to say, okay, remember the punctuation there.
What's the double dash thing called?
What the M dash?
M dash.
Yeah.
Is it counted as one or two characters? Because it's like, the AI is like, well, I love M dashes, but it's only one character.
Yeah, throw it in there. I'm sure you just gotta, that one always seems very odd to me where it's like, oh yeah, I'll stay within the bounds of Google Ads character limit. It's like that. You did not, but that's all right.
Have you seen any, we can get into ad quality scores a little bit. Have you seen doing things with AI improve or give us better ad quality scores out of the box, or are you still seeing about the same?
I think it depends.
It depends.
Yeah, there you go. That's the first one of the pod, right?
Yeah,
you're gonna hear that quite a bit.
Every time you say, I got to take a drink.
Take a drink. I'll repeat. It depends because I think what we've been using AI to do a lot recently. I actually was just talking with a client about this earlier today about, I think previously we were maybe keeping it to maybe like 6 to 10 headlines so that we can see what the variant testing looks like. And now that we've been incorporating AI into things, and just what we're seeing with results in the platform, okay, let's go, maybe up to like 12 to 15 headlines. Let's scale it that way, throw those in there. And that's been improving our quality scores because we're checking some of those boxes for Google.
You're making Google happy.
Yeah.
You're not really doing anything except for making Google happy.
You're
playing a Google game. You're not playing like we think this headline, we're not thinking 15 headlines is better than 7 or 8 or 10. We're just going, Google wants 5 more, give them 5 more.
Google wants more headlines, which is going to then improve our quality score, which then can lower our average CPC.
Yeah.
You're playing that game. The thing that you have to measure there is still making sure that you're checking your boxes. We're not adding headlines for the sake of adding headlines.
Yeah. We, I've been doing this long enough to know that just more headlines doesn't do anything. It's quality over quantity, but the fact that Google rewards you for adding more headlines, and when you log into the account, one of the recommendations And the overview section is like, you know what you should do? You should add, and if you get a call from your Google rep, they're going to say, you should add more headlines. I'm like, if all it does is make my CPCs go down a little bit, great, I'll give you 5 more headlines. But it doesn't always do it from an execution standpoint. It kind of gets in the way and makes the data more cloudy, unless you're just pumping in a ton of budget and you're getting millions of ad impressions. But if you're only getting thousands of ad impressions, doing multivariate testing 8 to the 8th power is enough. You don't need 15 to the 15th power. There's too many variations, too many variables, too many things. Now you're just diluted in the water of, I don't know, because I'm only getting 16,000 ad impressions. There's not enough data for even Google to figure it out, really, let alone me. So we were better off with 8. But here you go, Google. Here's 5 more.
Here's
whatever,
5 more.
Or whatever makes you happy.
And I better see the search impression share loss to ad rank go down. That's what you have to measure.
Before we jump over to banners, let's wrap up with text on a couple of quick things. How is AI, or are you seeing some of this to be true or false? Numbers and headlines lift CTR by 15 to 25%. Do you like using, and have you seen like 24-hour delivery save 40%? Those types of clear buy now call to actions working a lot better, or headlines working a lot better to boost CTR? Agree or disagree?
I would say in broad terms, I would agree, but I think that might be more due to the benefits associated with those numbers versus, like to me that, is it having like a claim about like, 24-hour delivery, something like that.
That's the next stat is like CTA clarity drives a 45% CTR lift. So call to action for the nerds, I say CTA. Call to action clarity drives a 45% lift in click-through rate, CTR. So short headlines usually perform better. Numbers and headlines usually perform better. But causation correlation is probably because you have a very clear offer. You have a very clear call to action. You have a very clear intent of why you're advertising in the first place. It's not learn more about our services. Like that's maybe a headline.
Yeah, and I would also say too, and this is actually checking your boxes, maybe not Google's boxes, but I would also say, I would imagine that there's a pretty strong correlation there between also pinning headlines and making sure that Google isn't serving. If you have 2 numbers for, say you have 24-hour service and then, like a 7-day delivery. I imagine if you serve up those headlines, side to side, that your CTR might not be as solid as if it was, say text ad here, headline 1, and then you have the pinned 24-hour service next to that. I think that would also probably improve your CTR, and that might not show up there in that when you take a look at the overall stats as to why that is.
Another conflicting case studies that we run into as digital marketers is like what performs better, all capitals, or like sentence case where like the first letter of every word is capitalized. And there's an AI software out there that people may or may not have heard of. It's called Optimizer, OPTMYZR. It's kind of a funny spelling, but Optimizer. They'll tell you that sentence case now outperforms title case. And it's true when you're looking for maybe demand generation and you don't have like a clear offer. People might read sentence case because it pulls them into like actually reading versus like an all caps headline where it's like, oh, 20% off. It just screams at you like, oh, this is the ad. This is the offer. And so sometimes you have to kind of figure out, are you optimizing for clicks or are you optimizing for ROAS, right?
Yeah.
That also goes into ad placement. We know, or at least studies have shown, if you rank number 1 on Google, you have a 52% higher CTR than the second spot. You're going to get more clicks being higher on the page. Early on in the decades ago, lawyers and doctors always wanted to be at the top of the page. Like if I had a doctor or a lawyer customer or a client, they'd be like, I want to be number 1. I don't care how much it costs. I always called that the ego bid of, those professions. They don't care. They want to be number 1. The smart math guy that does the ROAS calculation and goes, I'm only ROAS positive on this keyword if I get it at $3 a click, not $8 a click, goes, I'm not walking away from these keywords, but I'm comfortable enough letting the doctor down the street pay more than I'm paying. I'll run his business into the ground by bumping up against it, but not going past my threshold of profitability. That's a technical ability that we have to kind of play with bids and how we structure things and how we bid for things. But on the creative side, this is supposed to be a creative podcast. Don't we also want to write qualifying ad copy that prevents the wrong clicks from happening and only gets us to good clicks?
Yes, and then I think the next part of that too, in that creative discussion, is how are you matching that with your experience on the landing page? You want to qualify that person in some way before they get to the landing page, because if they get to the landing page and you haven't, maybe said the right things in the ad copy to prepare them for or matching their expectations on the landing page, then you can have a very solid click that maybe just doesn't align with what you're saying, and then they would bounce. Whereas otherwise they would normally stay and potentially convert.
We had that conversation with a client this week. They're like, can you add these keywords to our campaign? We want to expand our services down these 3 new service.
Yeah.
And we're like, yes, we can.
Mm-hmm.
However, it would be a bait and switch campaign.
Yeah.
The keywords that we would be running ads on do not match the landing page that we would drive traffic to. Pump the brakes. Let's make good ads. Let's write the text ads. Let's make the good ad copy. Let's make the banners. But I'm not going to drive traffic to a landing page that doesn't match that. You're going to have a bad quality score. You're going to pay higher CPCs and it's not going to convert. The keyword that you want to focus on needs to show up on your website or it's not going to convert. It seems like very common sense, but people get excited about keywords and they don't always think about the full buyer journey.
Yeah. Well, and it's something where you have to really take a look at it in your dashboard or whatever your reporting tool is and see, kind of see the difference, or go in platform and Google Ads and, look at the landing page experience or the expected CTR, those stats. But if you're looking at your CTR on your keywords and going, man, we have a great CTR here. And then you look at the conversions and go, okay, no, we haven't recorded anything. I think that's usually the telltale sign of a mismatch between your keyword and your landing page experience.
Dovetailing, let's move this along into display. We know that the CTR is about 7 times higher on text ads. Bottom of the funnel, direct response. We'd like to start with text ads. We'd like to be in text ad land. It's going to perform better. But we've done the bullseye podcast too, or the bullseye method of media buying. Now we're going to those outer rings of retargeting, programmatic advertising, contextual advertising, in-market audiences, all those things. They all are various ways to buy different audiences, but at the end of the day, the placement is the same. That square, that rectangle, that leaderboard, that skyscraper, they're all banner ads. Doesn't matter how you buy them. It's the same asset at the end of the day that lives on somebody's website. That's the ad space that you can buy. And those have been around for decades. How long ago do you think those Google ads now that come out that are responsive display ads, where like now it's not a banner anymore? It's like, here's your, it's like, it's like a dissected, it's like when you make an omelet and you have like the omelet, and then it's like you go to a fancy restaurant, like this is a dissected omelet. Like, we're going to put your egg over here and your tomato over here. I feel like that's kind of what happened with banner ads. Like, we used to have like cool banner ads, and then Google's like, yeah, but can you just put your headline here, your picture here, your logo here, your call to action button, and now we have all these responsive banner ads.
Yeah, and now we're going to serve it up in all these different placements.
And we're going to size it for you, and we're going to, What do you think the evolution is? I don't know if you have like an evolution conversation here, because I think you were born into a responsive ad environment. You don't really maybe know before, but give me your thoughts on what do you think about the responsive ads versus maybe somebody who actually takes the time to make custom creative.
Well, I think just generally speaking, if you're really going to get into the weeds, that custom creative will typically outperform a responsive display ad potentially. But the caveat with that being is that the effort and the level of investment required for those custom display ads is much higher than it is for a responsive display ad, the time investment. And also there's a higher level of or margin for error with those as well. When you're filling out the responsive displays, really, you can check a lot of boxes and Google will tell you exactly what you need to do, what kind of placements you can show up for. You can use their preview tool, and it really just gives you a greater flexibility of overall placement. And I would say generally, that's kind of how we proceed with getting those set up.
If you had a customer ask you, a client say, how much money should I spend on ad creative versus media, what would you say?
I think that's where I'll pull out my second. It depends.
Okay.
But I would say definitely.
If you had a $100,000 media buy for the year, you're going to spend $100,000 on Google, Facebook, you're going to go out there and you're going to buy advertising.
Mhm.
Should half of my budget go towards creative? Seems a little high.
It does
You
seem
want
a
to
little
be
high.
like maybe more like 10%.
Yeah. And I would say, going back to our conversations about AI and how that's kind of incorporating in there, is that way. That's one of the great things that I really love about AI in the space, is that I think it actually allows you to do that much more efficiently than you would have been able to do before. I think you are able to say, yeah, maybe put 10 to 20% of your overall budget towards the creative and scaling that, because AI tools allow you to kind of build those much more efficiently and with maybe less input. You don't necessarily need a graphic designer on staff or a whole creative team, working for weeks getting that together. If you can have AI kind of jumpstart that process, get that human element involved. But yeah, I think that budget allocation of maybe 10 to 20% is more accurate with what you'd recommend at that $100,000 budget.
Yeah. And I think sometimes with people with low budget, they have longer thresholds for ad fatigue. When you're thinking in like, let's take this banner ad conversation and move it over to TV for a second, because people watch commercials on TV and they know Flo from Geico.
Yeah.
Flo from Geico has been around forever, right? We all know Flo. We all know the little lizard.
Yeah. The Geico Gecko.
The Geico Gecko. He's not running the same ad that he was running 6 months ago. They're coming out with fresh creative based on a concept or based on an offer. It's the same service, same product, same company, same Geico lizard, the Gecko, whatever it is, same, but ad fatigue is a concern for them. They're spending millions and millions of dollars on TV spots. Let's make a fresh one every month. If you're only spending $1,000 a month on Google and only, again, 16,000 or 60,000 impressions are being generated from your ad budget, and it's getting sprinkled around an entire nation or an entire metro, where the average impression cap on somebody might be one a week or one a month, and you're just not reaching all the masses. You can run that banner ad if it's a good offer for 2 months, 3 months, and you're not going to have ad fatigue because no one's really saw your ad. You don't have that kind of budget where the whole world's seen it. So that also is a factor in how much you want to spend. Some people will run an offer or an ad almost as evergreen. Yeah. This is my fallback ad. I would like to make more, but this one works. Just keep pushing it.
Yeah. And that's, going back to it, like that's something that we have seen quite a bit in previous years is, you have your evergreen video ad or you have your evergreen batch of retargeting ads that you run consistently because your audience isn't that large. You're not likely to run into ad fatigue nearly as quickly. But then also, there is a budget and a time element to that, because before AI, really got involved or really kind of reached to the level that it's at right now, you had to invest a lot of time and money into getting those together. And that might not have been feasible for every business the way it is now.
That's where those people would go like, crap, all I have is, I don't want 50% of my budget going into fees. Yeah. I want 80% of my budget going into the media buy. I want the impressions. I want the visibility. I don't want to hire a graphic artist and an agency to go out and build me ads every month because that just eats my budget. And then I'm at the end of my rope with not a whole lot of performance because I spent all my money on fees and creative. So AI has come a very long way very quickly. A couple of the tools I'll mention is Ad Creative AI. We have an account there. We logged in. It does cool things. I think it's very product focused and social media focused. It does a lot of things on the fly. There's some pros and cons to it. I like that it doesn't charge you until you download the actual creative, so you can kind of do unlimited AI sandboxing. And you can do a brand kit and keep your hex colors and your logo and everything standard. So that's always a nice thing to have. But you do have to go in and kind of tweak it. It doesn't do some of the scaling as well as I would say like other platforms do. Every single project is a brand new project. I used to use one back in the day called Creatopy or Creatopy or whatever. It's a foreign owned software company. They've recently or they've rebranded as The Brief. I know a lot of people use that one. Those are some nice $50, $100 a month software sets that you can go in and you can kind of scale that creative. Agencies use it. Agencies can resell it. We can just use it for our services to be bigger, better, faster, and cheaper for our customers. We can share login access. So clients that want to kind of have we build the ad creative in-house and then we ship it over to our media team. Okay, we'll be your media team and we'll help you, and we can kind of share assets that way. So we work with those two. Those are primarily nice. A couple of other tools that aren't creative making development tools, but I think is important to mention before I forget them, are competitive analysis tools.
Definitely. Yeah.
You want to talk about the transparency tools? Because I've been doing too much talking.
No. Yeah. So something that's really helpful that we use quite a bit is the Google Ads transparency tool. I believe it's the Meta Ads transparency tool, or the Trust Center is maybe what they call it.
Yeah.
It's a somewhat of a slightly different name, but those are super helpful to do competitive analysis. It'll pull in the Google Ads Transparency Center. That'll pull in text ads, any kind of display ads. If they're running a video, it'll kind of show you what that looks like. Those are super helpful when you're doing that analysis. See what your competitors are doing, and also if you're looking for a launching off point for your, if you're working with a client and they have a particular company in mind that they want to emulate, or they want to see some kind of the same level of success, or just get involved in what they're doing. You can see what they're doing, talk about the pros and cons with them, and say, okay, this looks to be what their objective is. How does this match up with what you were trying to accomplish? Those tools are very helpful in getting started and getting an idea of what you want to get off the ground with.
Yeah, if you Google transparency or ad transparency Google or ad transparency Meta, they'll be at the top of Google. You'll see those tools, and you can click in there, and then they are kind of I think there's probably some sort of like government mandate that they do this. So I don't think they are just doing it because they're nice companies. They have to tell you. So I think it comes from political ads and how much is Trump and Joe Biden and Kamala spending on their different ad platforms, because I think they want to know that for political advertising reasons. But they just were like, if we're going to do it for this, let's just do it for everybody.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there was some kind of mandate.
Yeah. So it's nice, and they're not used enough, or they're not mentioned enough as like resources for inspiration, because you can go out there and literally type in any domain, any competitor, and you can see what they're doing or what they're not doing on these platforms. If they don't show up, it means they're not running ads. And sometimes SEMrush or Ahrefs will see things and they will tell you things. Like they can give you like the text ad copy on a big advertiser that spends a lot of money, but they're not going to catch the little local market guy down the street because he's just not spending enough. He's not showing up on their radar enough, at least enough to report back on it. These tools will, because they have to. So if you're looking for ad inspiration, whether it's text ads or creative, banners, YouTube, videos, whatever it might be, you will see that. And then you can go, oh, I like that. I don't like that. And then even if you're like a bigger company that's like, if you're a franchise owner and you're like, I wonder what the franchisee is doing 3 states away for their brand. Oh, that's what they're doing in Orlando. Oh, that might work here in Atlanta, or that might work here in Kansas City or Colorado, or it may not. Maybe I can't do it that way. Maybe I got to do it differently. Maybe I shouldn't put palm trees in the background of my ad because I'm in Colorado. So you can use the same messaging, the same headline, the same offer, the same whatever, but you got to like make it your own. So don't forget, there's always competitive research when it comes to creative and trying to make sure that you are leveling up and always getting better. And transparency tools can help you stay above your competition, or at least at the level of your competition.
Absolutely.
AI and some of the tools that we just talked about can help you build and scale faster. If you were the evergreen banner ad that's been running for 6 months, you can go to these tools and go, I can refresh my copy. are my banner ads every month at scale, and it's only going to cost me $500 a pop, 5,000.
Yeah, and you can experiment, I think, is the other aspect of that. When we talk about in previous years where maybe we're looking at creative, it's like, okay, we can only really do this maybe once every quarter and refresh our creative, and we really got to get it right. Having these AI tools and getting multiple variants, often when you're just initially creating it, like when you mentioned Add Creative AI, like that's something that I do enjoy about that platform, is that there's a lot of different variants just as soon as you start creating. If you want to put a couple of those in your back pocket, maybe do some A/B testing or take a look at your performance after a month and say, okay, let's maybe try, this other variant. Let's switch around where the CTA button is. Let's switch around with what it says, the colors. You have those options available to you at a larger scale when using AI versus maybe having to reach out to a human team or a graphic designer.
And anybody who's listening to this podcast might be also going, what about Canva? You haven't mentioned Canva. Everybody uses Canva now. Why are we even having this conversation about the brief or Add Creative AI? And the third rail that we haven't talked about, and it comes into banner conversation, is animations. How do you feel about static ads versus movement on the ads?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you have the ability to incorporate an animated ad, I do think generally it performs better than static images. And so if you have that capability, I would recommend it. There's some things that I think maybe is the motion necessary? Do you need to have that animated? If it's just, something about, obviously products are very different. If you want certain products are going to want that animation or that movement, maybe a little more, if you're talking about like a fitness accessory and having some kind of movement in there, somebody running with it or, something like that. I think that's a lot more beneficial than maybe something that, like a lamp or something like that, just as an example. Maybe the movement isn't as necessary, but in general, I do think those animated ads perform better.
Yeah, there's a complexity. Can I use my first? It depends.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm gonna say it depends. This is to everybody take a drink. The claim out there is probably something like animated banners have a 2x higher CTR than statics, and on the surface value or on the surface level, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. My eye is naturally drawn towards movement, therefore the CTR should be higher. What some of the murkier details show is, while that can get more clicks, sometimes those are the accidental oops, fat thumb clicks, and your ROAS or your performance on those doesn't really change. People who actually are interested in an ad, that click on an ad intentionally and not oopsed it or botted it or whatever it is, are the ones that are going to be like, oh yeah, the A/B testing here doesn't really show a difference. The CTR may be higher, but the conversion rate isn't any higher because of murkier factors than just, is it animated or is it not? So don't just go CTR, yay, CTR wins, let's go animation. Think about your product and your company and your service. And then it depends is it a clear, easy offer? If Easter's coming up around the corner, right? If your Easter offer is, BOGO, buy, I don't know, buy one pair of bunny slippers, get one half off, you don't need animation for that.
Yeah.
The offer needs to sell itself, and it needs to be clear, and it doesn't need to move, and it just be like, boom, here's a, and I'll get to this point here, and I'll come back to this question in a minute, but is it better to have a picture of the bunny slippers, or is it better to have humans in it? That's my next question. But to put a bow on this, it depends. If it's clear, simple, static might win. If your offer is, I need animation to get the text to roll through and be more of a storyteller and be like, are you tired of this? Then it's time for this. And it's kind of one of those like, boom, boom, like 1, 2, 3, stack the ad. That is an animation. You need to stack your ad in an animation, and it needs to be compelling, and it has to kind of have a 1, 2, 3 punch to it, or a 1, 2 punch to it, because you can't fit 64 font block text in one spot. It has to roll off, roll on, or roll on, roll off, roll on. And that is the only way you're going to get that message across in less than 2 seconds. Other than that, your static ad is just going to be like a little bit too wandery. What are they offering? I don't understand what this ad is actually offering. CTR, animation is higher. Conversion rate may not be. It depends.
Yeah.
Focus on your offer. If it needs to stack and be animated, animate it. If it's simple enough to be static, static might win.
Yep.
My next question, in the bunny slippers scenario I just threw you,
Mm-hmm.
studies have shown that when you put people in ads, your eye typically goes towards people, not products. So is it better to have somebody wearing those cute fuzzy slippers in the ad, or is it just give me the ad, give me the product?
I think in the example of the bunny slippers, I would think having the person in there makes sense because you want to see somebody wearing the product. You want to see if it looks comfortable, if it looks like it fits, all of those different things. If it's a product that maybe you want them to imagine themselves in it versus somebody else, it's almost like I kind of jump back to like a real estate example of like you want to have them stage the house because you want them to imagine themselves living in it versus having to picture all of that in their head, right?
Yeah.
That's almost the same kind of idea.
Yeah, I think a study by Data Slayer says 28% higher CTR for lifestyle brands that have lifestyle compared to product. That goes into the it depends product, right?
Mm-hmm.
If your product is not a lifestyle product, if it's not a look at me, how cool I am, me rocking these bunny slippers around the house, maybe it's not for you. Maybe you do just need to have the product. SaaS is kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe it's not the person sitting behind a desk. Maybe it's a photo of the software or something that shows like return on investment or like you're selling the outcome and the goal and like more revenue, more profits. Like that's not lifestyle. That's the product.
What's more engaging? A photo, another stock image of a guy in front of a laptop typing at a desk,
you're like, look at me.
Or the hockey stick going the right way.
Right.
On
I
the
think
chart. Yeah.
People get hung up on these studies like, oh, well, if I put people in my ads, they're not wrong. It's true. You do get a higher CTR. People see people differently than they see products. But if you're not a product and if you're a service or you're a SaaS or something like that, maybe it's worth an experiment to see what works for you. Yeah. I think that's like a car wash place, right? Yeah. Do they want to see a clean car or do they want to see somebody happy about a clean car? We can test that out and say, well, if you put a person in front of a clean car and they're like, yay, look at my clean car, it gets a higher CTR or it doesn't. I don't know. We'll have to test that.
Well, and I'd also say too, just thinking off the top of my head here, I wonder what the CTR difference is versus a human and like a photo op, like a live person where they've clearly done like a photo opportunity or something like that versus like maybe an AI generated human where you can clearly kind of tell it's an AI. I wonder what the CTR difference between those two would be because I imagine the real human would have a much higher CTR.
That goes down the influencer and the video path. There's a great segue, I think, to our final creative conversation is video and motion and people actually, live. Influencers that are fake and AI look a little, to me, yeah, I think agree. I want to see a real person talking about a product, even though it feels a little fake and maybe a little cheesy and a little bit purchased. Like, hey, I'm a brand ambassador. They paid me to do this. At least they're real. At least they're human. Yeah.
I don't know. Or at least you've had them like use the product. You'll see that a lot where it's like, oh yeah, I've been using this for 2 months now or something like that. Like they may, they paid me to get it started, but I'm going to keep on using it for 5 more months after this. It's like, I'm not sure I believe you because you're getting paid, but that maybe feels a little more genuine than the AI generated person in a car, filming like for a YouTube short where you're like, this just feels mass produced and ugh.
Yeah. There's a CTR component we've talked. I think we're kind of beating it over the head a lot and putting a lot of weight on it. Conversion rate is also kind of maybe more important than CTR. We use CTR as an engagement metric when it comes to buying on a CPM and banners and videos and things that people see versus text ads that people click. But the conversion rate can be different than the CTR rate. You can have CTRs improving, but conversion rate's going down, right? Because if your ad is compelling and it's engaging and it's clickable because you're using AI or something and it's cool and people want to check it out, but your landing page and your follow through is not there, it doesn't really matter, does it?
No, it doesn't. And going back to what we talked about earlier, that's a very clear indicator. If your spend is the same, CTR is increasing and your conversion rate is going down, then that's immediately where I think, okay, we're just not saying the right things on the landing page. Are we matching our ad copy and our landing page messaging up? And then beyond that, if it does look like those are matching up, then maybe are we reaching the right audience? Did we make any kind of targeting change? Those are pretty key indicators of some kind of mismatch there that go beyond maybe just your ad creative.
We talked about ad fatigue a minute ago when it comes to banners. I think ad fatigue is more important when it comes to video. I think you notice when you see the same video over and over again. If anybody's a Hulu subscriber, after the third commercial break where you've seen the third commercial repetition over and over again, you're like, can I please see something different?
Yeah.
Stop showing me the same 4 ads every commercial break. That gets annoying. So if you are going to go back to that 80-20 or 90-10 rule of how much media should I be spending, or how much should my creative budget be versus my media budget, think about the idea of ad fatigue. And with banners, you might get away with a little bit extra. Nobody's going to be like, God, I've seen this banner ad 7 times today. They're like, hey, it's a banner ad. I'm not even looking. It's going into my brand awareness. And one thing we should also mention when it comes to banners, we really don't try to talk about CTR too much. They are for awareness.
It's awareness. Yeah.
It's for them to see it, not for them to click on it.
Yeah.
We shouldn't even get hung up. We should probably even not even get hung up on CTR banners, honestly. Like, it's not really even important, that factor. So, when it comes to video, though, your ad fatigue is probably a shorter window. So if you are going to invest in video assets, you almost need to have somebody who's comfortable in front of the camera in-house building these videos for you, or it gets really expensive to outsource it and hire an agency to do it, because they're going to charge you $5,000 a pop to do a funny video. And hopefully it's well done. It's well produced. It's well scripted. It looks great. It's well lit. They've done all the things you like, man, this is an awesome ad, but gosh darn it, it only lasts me 30, 60 days and then I got to do it again.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you start to see your metrics, start moving in the wrong direction. You're like, yeah, you gotta get back in there and do it again.
And we've all seen the local commercials versus the nationwide commercials. You can see a difference in production quality, and
certainly
you can try to save a buck, and you can try to use AI to do things. And this is probably one of the areas that is changing rapidly, maybe almost daily. We're looking at nano bananas and what are some of the other video AI?
I know like Sora was actually just recently discontinued.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Disney pulled out of the deal, I think, because that's an open AI product, I believe.
Okay.
I think they actually just recently kind of canceled it.
I think not Gronk. Why do I say Gronk? I always say Gronk.
You're thinking of
I do that every time. Grok. I don't know why I do that. Grok just extended their AI to 30 seconds though. So now you're playing with B-roll instead of 5 or 8 second chunks. Now I can get my B-roll prompt to do 30, which helps you edit and stitch together a commercial maybe with AI. It's changing rapidly. I don't think it's, at least not for me and my team, my company. We're not like video editing Groks to make video ads for people. I still think there's like a higher level skill set that really takes to put a script or an idea and a script and talent and production behind it. And when you do it well, even people kind of go, oh, that was AI. You kind of even had that kind of negative connotation. Like Coke got their negative connotation with their AI ad over Christmas. And I'm like, it was a great ad. It was awesome. I don't know why people are mad about the Coke ad, but the fact that they probably spent thousands and thousands of dollars and they had an in-house team. I don't know what the investment was on it, but let's say they spent $10,000 to $20,000 on one ad. Well, that's a drop in the bucket for their billion dollar ad campaign that they're probably running. Yeah. So why not play with it and experiment with it if you're Coca-Cola?
Well, and that goes back to what you were talking about with how much do you spend on the actual creative versus how much do you put towards the spend? I cannot imagine what Coca-Cola would have spent on a video ad of that same length years prior without AI. What kind of investment that would have went in versus how much they allocated back into the spend.
Yeah. They would have had to call Disney and get the animated bunny guy to come in and create all the caricatures and develop all the AI. I mean, it would have been a very expensive ad.
Yeah. No doubt.
And now they can do it with AI, and it looks a little AI. I'm not saying it's not, but
definitely.
Power to the big brands who have the budget to go play with it and pioneer these things, because it's the little companies that come after those big companies that are going to benefit. They're going to be like, Coke did it this way. Now I can, whatever, if it took Coke $20,000 and 80 man hours to produce this commercial, maybe I'm way out. Maybe it was like 6 months and maybe it's the whole thing, but it's going to get faster and faster and faster and better and better and better. And then by the time I'm old enough to retire and get out of this game, people are going to be like, oh, you want a 30-second spot? No problem. Let me just dial that up.
I'll just whip that up this afternoon. Yeah.
That's not there yet. So we're not in that game. But I think going back to fatigue, if you're going to open up the video bucket, be ready to do it in-house or have somebody who's comfortable producing a lot of videos for you and doesn't mind doing a little bit of get in front of the camera. We have a couple of clients that run YouTube ads and they provide us monthly YouTube videos. They're creating them and they don't mind getting in front of the camera and having a video editing, done, but they're kind of doing their own driving. They're driving that bus. We're not.
Absolutely.
And I've talked to other ad creative or video production companies about doing videos for our clients, and everybody wants 5K minimum, 10K. Yeah. They want to put you on a retainer. They don't want to just do one-offs. So you got to start thinking, is my $100,000 a year budget going to buy me videos? It'll buy you videos, but then you'll have no media dollars left to actually go promote those videos. Yeah.
And also you don't have the room to experiment or try, you're kind of, if
you're
you build out that evergreen, you're like, I'm going to run this for 5 months, 6 months. Like I want to get my money's worth out of this.
You are correct. All right. Maybe wrap this up. We're getting close to an hour here. Okay. Don't use AI to do video. Probably put humans and real people in your videos. Do use AI to help you scale and expand and ideate and scale banners.
And experiment.
And take that, what used to be maybe a $5,000 agency cost down to a $500, and work with people who can scale and do that inside of a platform that's built to scale. Use HTML5 animated banners. If you have a complex storyboard or some sort of ad creative that requires a little bit more of a boom, 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 1, 2, 3, don't necessarily need it. If you are a simple product that has a simple offer, just sell the offer and let the ad take care of itself. With the PMAX campaigns, what are my options inside of like Google? Am I limited to the responsive display, or can I upload my own? What are the rules of the road? Is there any sort of like guidelines or rules that I can or can't do certain things on Google? And then are there certain things with Facebook that I got to keep aware of? Like, does Facebook allow me to storyboard like ads? Like, this is the first ad they see. This is the second ad they see. Like, any some of that?
Yeah. So on the Facebook side, you definitely can do that. We talked with a client about this just earlier today about, we want someone to see this ad and then get sequenced into seeing this ad after that, and maybe move them towards 3 different options depending on the level of engagement or, what type of content makes the most sense for them. On the PMAX side, when you talk about the images, there's a lot of options in there. If you want to expand out your product images and maybe, say you've got just a product on a white background, PMAX and Nano Banana and those tools in Google Ads give you a lot of options to maybe expand that out and get some different variants of it. But generally speaking, you want to have a landscape image, just a standard square image. Really, PMAX just wants, again, Google always just wants multiple variants to try and test. You could have your landscape, your horizontal, your vertical, your square image. Give it those options to make sure that it has something to plug into those placements, and then you can really set the limits on if you want to include final URL expansion, which will then allow it to maybe find more landing pages and more images to pull from. And then obviously you have to put some guardrails on that if you want to protect your brand and make sure that it's generating the right kind of images. You have those options inside of the platform, definitely.
I think that might be a good next topic for a future podcast, is getting into some of those weeds, because I don't believe we can cover everything here, but I would like to know more about some of our e-commerce Nano Banana product enhanced assets, because when you have that merchant feed and you're limited to that, here's a picture of a product, you're missing that lifestyle component that maybe AI thinks that your brand needs, right? Like we just talked about, like, hey, if you put a human in with your ad next to your product, you might get that 28% higher CTR. More engagement means more conversions. More conversions means more revenue. Let's maybe dig into that and like maybe shame on me. I haven't like Googled anything about that. Like, does it work? Does it not work? But I also haven't seen like anything on my LinkedIn feed or anything like that where it's like, you should be doing this. Like, you need to enhance your product. And no one's talking about it. No one's really beating that drum that I can see. So maybe we should be the people to kind of go figure that out.
Yeah, no, we certainly could. And I think you also kind of see the use cases whenever you take a look at when Google puts out they're like, oh, hey, we just dropped this new, like, I know I sent it to you a couple of weeks ago where it's like, oh yeah, this is the new enhanced product images tool that Google has. And all of the examples are some of those more like lifestyle products, like maybe like makeup and other accessory, and like where you really would have those optimized. There's certain products in our merchant center feeds where it's maybe like, is that worthwhile to get those variants in there of like people using it?
Right. Yeah, it's too auto part. It's too like,
it's very industrial.
Very industrial. Yeah. You don't need
someone holding up, standing next to a generator, slapping it. Like, look at this bad boy.
Yeah. Like, what are you going to do with like, is it going to be like some guy on the assembly line holding up an auto part? Like, I made this.
Yeah. Grinning, a little thumbs up, like, boom. Yeah. I don't know if that's going to improve your CTR, but if you show someone actually using your product, like if you're talking about, like I said,
if you're L'Oreal and you got a lipstick and you got a even if she's AI generated girl, lady, whatever, like, hey, look at this mascara eyeball thing that again, it works for certain things. It doesn't. It depends.
That's our final. It depends.
It depends. All right. No more. It depends. Thank you for being on the podcast today, Alex.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Enjoy our conversation. This was a good one to have. Creative in the digital marketing world is changing. AI's here. We're playing with it. We're getting better with it. But let's keep exploring. Let's like dive into some of that new Nano Banana product experience stuff in the future. That'd be a great conversation to have.
You got it.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.